Hello, I'm Faye, a regulatory consultant at ZMUni. Today, I will discuss an important topic in China's cosmetic compliance, best practice for implementing the full CPSR. Implementing CPSR fully ensure compliance, protect consumer health, and enhance brand image and competitiveness. Firstly, let me briefly introduce myself. I have over 4 years of experience in Chinese cosmetic registration and filing. I understand China's cosmetic regulation and have worked extensively with overseas brands entering the Chinese market. I have the pleasure of helping numerous global brands navigate China's regulatory landscape, ensuring they stay compliant and effectively adjust their regulatory needs. Our company, founded in 2018, has served over 1,000 brands and 20,000 products. We specialize in compliance solutions for cosmetic, food, and ingredients to help products enter global markets. We are a national high-tech enterprise, hold ISO 9001 certification, and have a strong partnership with industry associations and research institutions. Now, let's take a look at today's agenda. We will highlight the key updates to the CPSR regulations, interpret the requirement for the full CPSR, and discuss the various types of cosmetic ingredient data included. Finally, we will address some common questions. Let's get started. In the first part, we will briefly introduce the regulation related to the CPSR and the NMPA's stance on it. Here is a summary of important dates related to the CPSR regulation. On May 1st, 2021, the technical guidance for safety assessment of cosmetic were released. January 1st, 2022, submission of the CPSR became mandatory for all cosmetic products, with a simplified version allowed until May 1st, 2024. May 1st, 2024, new measures for managing cosmetic safety assessment were released, extending the simplified version until May 1st, 2025. May 1st, 2025, all new product registration or filing must submit the full CPSR. These updates reflect the evolving regulatory landscape in the cosmetic industry. Although the simplified version of the CPSR could be used until May 1st next year, the NMPA strongly encourages companies to use the full version as soon as possible. We have listed data from several regions, and multiple companies have now submitted the full CPSR to complete the product registration. Next, let's dive into what each section of the full CPSR includes and what is required. The full CPSR has 13 parts. First up is the cover. It should include the following details: full version, title of the report, product name, name and address of the registration and filer, assessment agency, assessor's name, date of assessment. All this information must match what you have submitted to the NMPA for the product. The second part is the table of contents. It should list the number, title, and page number, and it needs to align with the main content of the report. The third part is the abstract. It should briefly introduce the product and state that all ingredients and risks have been assessed according to the technical guidance for cosmetic safety assessment to ensure an accurate conclusion. The ingredient list must be presented in descending order. Additionally, the abstract should clearly state that the safety assessment conclusion is that the product is safe. The fourth part, the product introduction should include the product name and usage in instructions. For usage frequency, for example, oxidative high dye products are used occasionally. So the instruction should state that the interval is longer than 1 month, describing the frequency as once a month. We should also specify the daily use amount, product retention factor, and their sources. The systematic exposure dose should also be calculated based on a specific formulas, and the percutaneous absorption rate should be indicated. In the full CPSR, we need to provide a general description of the formulation as well as the formulation table. Compared to simplified CPSR, we need to include actual ingredient content table and the product formulation table. For products that need to be compliant with 2 or more formulations, the mixed ingredient content should be assessed based on the product's instruction for use. This applies, for example, to high dye products. Ingredients that are not considered part of the formulation and do not need to be listed in the product formula should be explained individually in the product safety assessment documentation. Examples include butylated hydroxytoluene in a compound, or sodium bisulfate in a mixture. How should safety assessment of cosmetic formulation ingredient be conducted in a full CPSR? According to the guidance for the use of cosmetic ingredient data, there are a total of 7 types of proof that can be used for the safety assessment of ingredient in cosmetic formulation. Proof 1. If the ingredient falls under the restricted ingredients, permit preservatives, permit sunscreens, permit colorants, and permit high dyes in the STSC, it must meet the requirement to be confirmed as safe. Proof 1 has the highest priority among the 7 types of ingredient data proof. Let's use CPT as an example. When it is used as a preservative, it can only be added to a range of products with a limit of 0.5%. But if it is not being used as a preservative, like in anti-danger agents, the limit for anti-danger range of products can go up to 1.5%, while in lip-balm products, it drops to 0.1%. Proof 2 refers to the assessment conclusion published by internationally recognized cosmetic safety assessment authorities, typically indicating whether the CIR or SCCS has issued an elevation for the ingredient. When using Proof 2, it is important to know any condition attached to the conclusion. For example, if it says that 1% is safe only in non-irritating formula, you will need to provide proof like a toxicology report showing the product is non-irritating. Let's look at alpha-arbutin as an example. The SCCS released its final opinion on the safety of alpha-arbutin and beta-arbutin in cosmetic. They conclude that using alpha-arbutin at a maximum concentration of 2% in creams and 0.5% in body lotions is safe, and that using both together is also safe. So we can say that adding 2% alpha-arbutin to a cream is considered safe. Proof 3 is similar to Proof 2, but while Proof 2 is issued by a cosmetic elevation agency, Proof 3 comes from a non-cosmetic elevation agency. It includes information such as ADI, TDI, RFD, GRAS, IFRA certificate, and safe usage levels for spot removing or whitening ingredients published by regulatory authorities in China or other countries. On November 15th, the National Institute for Food and Drug Control in China released the revised draft for consultation of information on ingredient used in market products. Compared to the initial release on April 13 of information on ingredient used in market products, the revised draft has two main adjustments. First, in the scope of inclusion, the number of accessible ingredients increased from 2,234 to 3,578, adding 1,344 new ingredients. The numbers of accessible data entries also rose from 4,415 to 5,420, an increase of 1,005. Notably, some of the ingredient usage has increased, and more than half of those are plant-derived. Second, in the usage principle section, the order of application site was updated to include reference registration for specific areas. For ingredients used for 3 years or more, you can use them if they meet these conditions. Firstly, they must be the same as what is being elevated and listed under the same number in the IECIC. Second, any report errors must not be linked to their safety. Lastly, they should have the same usage conditions, the same application site and method, and the concentration shouldn't exceed historical levels. Proof 5 requires proof of the ingredient, a registration certificate and formulation for registered products, and production records for final products and those sold abroad. Not filing proof needed for products sold abroad. Also include details on adverse reaction and sales data to show safety. If using proof from other companies, get a letter of authorization from the ingredient manufacturer of the cosmetic company. Ingredient with safe edible history can be exempt from systemic toxicity evaluations during safety assessments. However, local toxicity should be assessed based on the application site and usage method. To use Proof 6, proof should come from provincial or higher food, agricultural, or healthy departments or relevant technical institutes. The data must be publicly available and authoritative, like announcements or standards. Internationally, it should come from national-level departments or recognized organizations focused on safe-to-eat ingredients published abroad. Chemically synthesized polymers with an average molecular weight over 1,000 Dalton and no more than 10% of oligomers under 1,000 Daltons are seen as stable, except for those with higher biological activity. For safety evaluations, we focus on local toxicity rather than transdermal absorption. We have also listed the additional documents that need to be provided. We have summarized some recommendations for companies preparing for ingredient safety assessments. Check ingredient when developing a formula. Verify in advance if the ingredient is registered or permitted according to the STSC. If it is registered, ensure compliance with the relevant limitations. Assess proof absorption. If the ingredient does not fall under Proof 1, evaluate whether you can use one of the proof from Proof 2 to Proof 7 as the basis for the ingredient safety assessment, depending on the specific circumstances. We will publish assessments. Check if the ingredient has a safety assessment conclusion published by CIR or SCCS, and know any additional requirement in that conclusion. Consult authoritative limits. Determine whether the ingredient has safety limit or conclusion published by authoritative institutions. Reference data availability. Look for any reference data available in the information on ingredient used in market products. Usage history. Confirm whether the ingredient has a usage of 3 years or more, and if relevant documentation can be provided. Edible history. Verify whether the ingredient has a safe edible history and if documentation is available as needed. Polymetic materials. Ensure that polymetic materials have a stable structure and properties, and provide quality specification documents that meet the requirements. When we provide a formula review service, we not only check the ingredients are allowed in China, but also confirm that they meet the requirement to complete the CPSR. So, what if none of the 7 types of ingredient data apply to the assessment? We can also assess the safety of the ingredient based on its specific situation by choosing TTC, read across, final product testing, or risk assessment procedure. TTC applies to cosmetic ingredient with a clear structure, low concentrations, and limited toxicological data. It does not apply to metals, strong carcinogens, proteins, steroids, higher molecular weight substance, radioactivity materials, nanomaterials, inorganic substance, or ingredient for preservative, sunscreen, coloring, dyeing, and spot removing or whitening functions. Read across is for non-active ingredients or rig substance that have a clear structure and lack thorough toxicological data, but it doesn't apply to ingredients used for preservative, sunscreen, coloring, high dyeing, or spot removing, whitening functions. If an ingredient can be assessed using TTC or read across, we will need to follow the risk assessment procedure to identify hazards, evaluate those response relationships, assess exposure, and describe the risk, ensuring the ingredient is safe to use. Cosmetic company could collect toxicological data for the ingredient in their formulation in advance. For ingredient in the IECIC, focus on gathering data for number 1 to number 7. Ingredients that do not have the UV absorption property or are unlikely to be exposed to strong outdoor UV radiation, such as general range of cosmetic and general cosmetic are used at night, are exempt from assessment of skin phototoxicity and photosensitization. If none of the proof in the guidance can be used, and the full risk assessment show that some toxicology data is missing, safety testing may be conducted on the final product to assess the safety of non-special ingredients in low concentrations. Ingredients that do not have a specific effect, such as skin whitening or hair loss prevention, and do not exceed 10% of the total formula. Different ingredients can act very differently. So, an ingredient at 0.1% might be safe, while another could be risky at just 0.01%. Therefore, safety assessors need to carefully assess what low concentration means based on the ingredient's structure, property, product time, application site, and how it is used. For ingredients that can be assessed using proof 1 to 7, we will provide relevant suggestions during the formula review. The full CPSR requires assessing potential risk substance in the product formula, covering 6 key situations. 1. Mandatory testing. China's regulation requires testing for certain hazardous substances in cosmetic, including mercury, lead, arsenic, cadmium, dioxin, asbestos, free from mentaldehyde, and methanol. If the product meets the testing requirement, it must be tested in China. 2. Risky ingredients. For ingredients with specific risks, we can evaluate them. We can evaluate them using quality specs and safety documents. 3. Product testing. Instead of focusing only one ingredient, instead of focusing only on ingredients, we can assess some risky substance using testing reports from the final product. 4. Hazard identification. If some risks are identified, we need testing reports or safety documents for them, such as glycols, phenols, pesticide hydroquinone, and benzene. 5. Manufacturer confirmation. We need proof from the manufacturer or ingredient safety document to confirm that ingredients like mineral oil are not on the STSC ban list. 6. Children's products. For cosmetic for kids, we also assess additional risks due to their unique needs, including ingredients like aloe vera, cocamino, prosopol, betaine, fragrance allergens, and glycerin. China's regulation clearly outlined the assessment requirement for each of these situations. Since we are short on time, we won't go into detail on each one. If you are interested or have any question, feel free to reach out to us for more discussion. After completing the safety assessment for the ingredients, we need to include our risk control measure and recommendations in the report. This could cover things like warning labels, usage instruction, and target user groups. The full version of the CPSR requires the submission of 3 test reports: product stability test, packaging material compatibility test, and anti-corrosion test, as well as reflecting the test result. The conclusion of safety assessment, like the abstract, should clearly state that the product can be considered safe by the safety assessment. The report shall be signed by assessor and his or her CV shall be attached. Reference need only indicate the source and origin as required, and the original document must be retained for future reference. The final part of the full CPSR is the appendix. It should include testing reports, quality specification documents, and other relevant reference documents. Finally, let's go over some questions and suggestions. If you want to know how to choose the formula for cosmetic to be sold in the Chinese market, we have summarized a list of optional ingredients for you. If you are considering the full CPSR, you can look for relevant ingredients from the STSC and the information on ingredients used in market products. Here are some questions you might find interesting. Question 1. If the toxicology testing of product or ingredient is required, are there specific requirements for the test reports? If the toxicology report is just an attachment for the CPSR, you can use the report from a board. However, if it is for mandatory testing related to the product registration or filing, the testing must be conducted in China. Question 2. Are product stability tests, packaging material compatibility test, and anti-corrosion test mandatory in China? You can provide testing report from the factory in the country of origin for these 3 tests. Typically, as long as the relevant parameters are set and the samples are stored under specific conditions for a sufficient duration, at least 3 months, which is generally recognized in China, that should be acceptable. Question 3. How can we complete the full CPSR for products that do not undergo animal testing? Animal testing is not mandatory for the full CPSR unless it is essential for certain toxicology data. However, if the product needs to meet the specific CIR requirement or lacks toxicology data and cannot use alternative methods, animal testing may be unavoidable. Question 4. When is the registration or filing of the product necessary to consider the full CPSR? Currently, if you are preparing to launch product like anti-hair loss, whitening, or sunscreen, you need to consider the full CPSR. Starting in February next year, the same applies to high-dye, high-perm products and general cosmetic. If you find the compliance procedure for cosmetic too complex and want an easy solution, you can consider working with a professional service agent like us. Since 2021, ZMUni Compliance Centre has helped dozens of companies complete the registration and filing of various cosmetic. Our cosmetic notification and registration application number in China account for 10% of the industry total in 2023. As we near the end of today's webinar, we kindly ask you to take a few minutes to complete our survey. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to us and will help us to improve our service and provide more valuable content in the future. Thank you for your participation and support.